Welcome to tonight's podcast, the Klown Hour podcast. It's tonight's edition of the Klown Hour podcast. I'm Scott Burks, your host. My host above me, Brady Bunch Styles, Dwayne Nash. Please check him out on the Yard, HBCU Sports. He's smiling. When he raps about all things HBCU Sports, as well as SLZE Radio, aka Sleazy Radio, every Tuesday night on Facebook Live. Check out him, the coach, and Sweet Lou. You'll be glad you did. Also, check out his great work on herosports.com, where reps about all things FCS athletics as pertains to HBCU sports. As for me, you see the website here, the Klown Times. That's my sports blog. So that's the www.theklowntimes.net. Check me on Facebook as well. We're on your smartphone, laptop, desktop, wherever you are, and wherever it may be. Just do a search for the Klown Times. You'll find us there. You find me and some of my followers and fans or whoever at the Fool and post all sorts of weird sports memes. And before I introduce my guests, two things. Please continue to subscribe to the channel. We've been picking up more subscribers lately, as well as more commenters. So please continue to like, share, and comment. Even if you think I'm full of crap, you can tell me I'm full of crap. I like to throw it right back at you and tell you you're full of crap. So I'm pretty petty like that. But nevertheless, please feel free to comment. Feel free to share, like, whatever you want to do with it, as long as we get some love, because it's going to help us on YouTube. It's going to help you get all the updated videos and whatnot. So you always want to join our comments section. So anyway, and one more thing, get the merchandise here. Woo-hoo.
Get that merch.
Thank you. Go to cafepress.com, search for the Klown Time Sports. The actual link will be in the description on YouTube when this uploads tomorrow. You find it there as well. So we got one of my favorite guys in the house and another one of my favorites who's making his maiden voyage onto the video version of the Klown Hour podcast, my guy, Kevin McCune, and the one and only Jared Singleton of the radio show, The Weekend Adjustments. Used to be on Saturdays on like out of Hamilton. I think it's 1650 AM.
1450 WMOH.
1450. I'm sorry, the ticket. I'm sorry. My bad. I totally messed it up. But Jared, welcome, and Kevin, welcome back. How y'all doing?
Good to be here.
Cool.
Nice to be here, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for y'all for being here. So I have you guys in the house because we know what time it is. It's NBA time, and it's fan-freaking-tastic. I mean, we could go on with the storylines because the regular season starts this weekend. Obviously, the preseason is going on right now. But before we get to what should be an amazing regular season, let's talk about one guy in particular. That's one Kyrie Irving. Okay, look, we all have our own opinions, right, on the vaccine, because it's been made to a very controversial and rather political topics. I want to stay away from those as much as I can because we're not here to judge one's opinions. It's your right to get the vaccine or do whatever the hell, right? And it's just as like it's my right to do what I have to do and not get sick. You know what I'm saying? So in this case here, it says we all have careers here. So we understand if you work in the corporate world, you have to follow by certain rules put by your company. And one of those rules is you have to get vaccinated, or else, unless you're looking to find another line of work, yes, has to get vaccinated. Just that simple. So with that in mind, the Nets, I think, on the verge of something really special because they get James Harden and with Kyrie, with a healthy Kyrie and Kevin Durant for a full season. They all know each other. And even after that trade went down in the middle of early last season, I should say, with them learning each other on the fly, they're able to take off because to their credit, Kyrie said, James, you're the point guard. Kevin, you're a go-to guy. I'll be the scorer dude in the background. And it worked for a while, except in the playoffs, when the injury bug took over, it just derailed their chances against the Bucks. And to be honest with you, if they were healthy, not only would they have beaten the Bucks, in my opinion, they probably would have won the whole damn thing. Let's just be real about it. Because to me, the two best teams in the playoffs last year were the Brooklyn Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks. So I think whoever won that series is going to win the whole thing anyway, which is exactly what happened. So now we got this going. And so I don't know if you guys heard about, I'm sure you guys did, heard about what the Nets said, that basically put a statement, I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it out in front of me, that said, you know, if until Kyrie is cleared and that's what he has to do, I'm paraphrasing again, he won't be able to play part-time. He won't be able to play at all. So Kevin, I'm gonna kick it to you, then Jared and D, you just take us home with this. How do you see this whole thing ending? Do you see Kyrie eventually taking the vaccine and just doing it because of team policy and not the real chance to win it all? Or do you see his ass getting traded out of town, at this point?
I don't know. I think you can look to other high profile. I mean, you can look to other high profile situations. Just recently, the Aaron Rodgers situation comes to mind where they eventually work it out. The player, gets in and obviously is playing. I think they'll get it worked out, and I think it'll probably be through Kyrie getting the vaccine. I don't know though. I think the hard thing there is that Kyrie is a guy who has always stuck to his guns no matter what, and has always been willing to even at times welcome controversy, you could say maybe the pressure that comes with saying controversial things or having controversial views.
Right.
He hasn't shied away from that, and his stance, as recently as today, his most recent comments on it, he wanted to reiterate that he's not anti-vax, but that he is trying to make a statement for those people who are losing their jobs because they're refusing to get vaccinated. And so
I heard that.
I think that statement is where I give it a little pause, because I'm like, well, Kyrie's a guy, if he's gonna put his feet in the ground, he's gonna try to not move. I don't think he'll get traded just because of his threats for retirement. I think that's gonna, you look at Ben Simmons' situation right now, and you look at what the Sixers were trying to get versus what teams were offering and what they thought Simmons' worth was. And then Simmons kind of saying he didn't want to be there, and that kind of killing his trade value, which was already kind of uneven as far as what the Sixers again thought they were going to get compared to what other teams were offering. So Kyrie's pretty much killed his trade value. And I think that was strategic to say for the Nets, not because I came here with Durant for a purpose. If you trade me, I'm going to retire. So with that threat out there, I don't think a lot of teams are going to offer a lot for him at this point.
Right.
But I think just because ultimately the goal, and I don't know that, I'm not saying this gets done, before the regular season and that Kyrie's out there game one, but I think ultimately Kyrie will be out there at some point this season. Just because the overall goal when they signed was a championship. And last year, if Kevin Durant's foot was just a little bit smaller,
I know.
They're winning the Eastern Conference Finals.
Right.
And they're going on to a championship. So ultimately, I will say this. Ultimately, I think that he will be a member of the Nets this year. I do not necessarily, and I would probably say I kind of lean more towards the fact that he will not be with them for all 82 games though.
Wow. All right, Jared, what's up, buddy? Yes, Jared's still on mute. So
all right, how do you get around this though, Kevin? Like you're saying he plays not 82 games with them. It's New York state law. So it doesn't matter what the Nets do. It matters nothing what anybody does here unless he is able to get around the New York state law. There is one way to do it. I don't know if he necessarily can because his residence is in New Jersey. He can apply for a, out-of-state citizen, blah, 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 and he'd be able to play because he's an out-of-state citizen. But if New York rejects that, the state rejects that, he can't play. So the options there are either you're not going to play if the Nets are going to stand by this. If you're not playing at home, you're not playing at all. So who's going to break here? Is it going to be Kyrie saying, okay, fine, trade me. I'll go to team A, team B, or team C. And then that's where you're going, or Kyrie just doesn't play and ends up retired, quasi-retired, because he just can't play. So if you're asking me what happens, I don't think he plays at all this year unless the New York State law changes.
Wow. That's pretty bold. Two different perspectives. So D, would you bring us all home, brother, with this?
I mean, I'm leaning towards Jared. It's the logical situation. I'm not saying that you're not logical, Kevin. I don't want you to think that that's how I think of you. But my thing is, okay, New York won't let him play. What compensation do you necessarily get back for Kyrie for a condensed season? Because, of course, you're going to want full value for Kyrie. And if he can't play this year,
right,
you're now hoping that he comes back healthy the following year, right? Along with that, hoping that he also comes back and doesn't decide to take games off again. So you're going to want maximum value from a dude who is already flaky at best when he is healthy and is capable of being on the floor and this making decisions on whether or not he's going to play or not play. And now, did I hear you guys right and say he's not necessarily anti-vax, but he's doing it for another reason?
Yeah, so those kind of comments that came out today, I read them earlier today. He kind of said, I don't want people to think I'm anti-vax like that. And I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, like, that's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for all those people that are losing their jobs. I'm doing this essentially because I don't want people to feel like they can be controlled by those over them that dictate decisions like this, like having to be vaccinated.
Gotcha. So you know what happens when you don't want to be controlled? Work in a different industry, work someplace else, or be unemployed. So, Kyrie, there are your choices. I get you want to go ahead and be an activist, stand up for the little man. I'm with you. At times, though, you got to understand the responsibility of the job that you chose. And I'm not even talking about the NBA. I'm talking about the stance that he's making right now, standing up for those who can't make that type of decision. So, hey, if you don't want to play ball, you don't want to play ball. But I kind of feel like Shaq, you're a detriment to the organization. We wanted you here. We feel as though that we need you here in order to succeed. If you're not going to be here, then you don't need to be here. And then with that said, like I said before, a real contender, are they going to be, or wherever he wants to really go, will they be willing for him to wait to do whatever he needs to do in order for him to get back in the floor? I don't know. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, which is why I believe he's going to be sitting out.
You know what?
So get ready to see him at somebody's bowling parlor or something.
It's crazy. That's just insane. Because you have this situation going on in Brooklyn, and then you have the situation down the road in Philly. I know, Kevin, you referenced it earlier, man, about Ben Simmons. Now, in the case of Ben Simmons, look, I bagged on Ben Simmons all postseason. Y'all know that. I've had my fair share of petty pot shots at him, and better sophomore pot shots at him, but anyway, I mean, the guy, he has shooting demons. Whether it's, I don't know if it's a matter of he can't shoot or he doesn't want to shoot. Remember when he passed up that layup, that surefire, at least layup in Game 7 against Atlanta, when he spun around. I forget what the dude who was checking him.
He's asked to do too much in Philadelphia. That's the problem.
Okay, explain that. Explain right quick, Jay, because that's a good point you made. But I want you to explain it.
I was just explaining, like, kind of answering as to why he passed that up, because I've heard that question asked so many times, and it's like, because he's just asked to do too much. He's thinking too much. He's not playing because he's thinking too much. Some guys can just go through it like Chris Paul and download all the information and just rip through it quickly. Some guys are more just, I can see the floor, I see what's happening, and this is the instinctual thing to do. My instincts play the game for me. So he's just asked to do too much because he's thinking too much. He needs to be in a different situation. That's the only problem with Ben Simmons. I'm sorry. I love Ben Simmons.
Hey, you know what? And feel free to cuss my ass out, because I was taking pot shots. But I mean, to your point, Jared, And I was thinking this too. I'm sure you guys thinking the same thing. I could have sworn they were going to trade Ben Simmons before the season started because look, and his defense, I'm sure Jared would agree with me on this. And his defense, when you have after a game 7 where, okay, you've just been out of it, you played your worst ball, it happens, right? It happens to the best professionals out there. You to have your head coach, when someone asks your head coach, do you think you can win with this guy? And when he takes a pause and says, I don't know, that's red flag number 1, right? Red flag number 2 is they go ask your co-star who you don't really get along with anyway. Like, what's the turning point of the ball game when he specifically references that point without naming you? You want to get one out of there because it's like there's no going back. There's no coming back at this point because the head coach and your main superstar, one of your superstars, said point blank clearly, we can't win with this guy. So that's a toxic situation waiting to happen. So to me, that's why I'm just amazed that Ben Simmons is still on the Philadelphia 76ers roster. And maybe that has something to do with Daryl Morey, what a ridiculous package for him, even though everyone and mama knows that Ben Simmons does not want to be there in Philly anyway. So so I agree with you right there, Jared, that this is a situation that was created not by Ben Simmons doing, that has become toxic. So I know, Dwayne, you jump at the bit. I'm gonna get to Kevin first, because he's looking about to say something right quick. And Dwayne, you could just pretty much like give your 2 cents on as well. But I just found it strange that Ben Simmons, Kevin, is still a member of the 76ers at this point.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is you have to put a lot of the blame on, you mentioned him, on Morey and on the Sixers here, because I think you're right. I think that things were said by Doc and Joel and that, you know, really alienated Ben. And I think there wasn't a lot of vocalness on his camp until, until training camps and all that were supposed to start for the Sixers. And as far as him not ever wanting to play there again. But I also think that the Sixers in a way made their own bed in the situation, because one, he was alienated there to end the season, to end the playoffs, but then what they wanted for him, I mean, if you read some of the stories over the summer, some of the rumors as far as what they were trying to get back for him, and not to discredit him, I mean, the guy has had a good career, a great career in a lot of respects up until this point.
Sure.
Sans some of his scoring abilities, but I think what they were wanting for him was so outrageous, and you're right.
It's crazy.
And teams knew that they were trying to get rid of him. They're like, we're not going to give you all of this. And
right.
Like even as a Cavs fan, there were some packages I saw rumored to the Cavs where I was like, I don't know if I want the Cavs to give up that much. They don't have anybody, So,
right.
It's just,
to be clear, you do want them to give up that much.
Nice. Nice.
But it was just insane. I feel like some of what they were wanting to get back, and so now I think they're in a situation where they know his worth, and they don't want to part with him without getting back something that they feel is equal value. But they also are at a point where they're probably not going to get that. So their only option right now is to try to amend the situation and maybe give it one more run with what they have. And it's looking murky.
How about you, D?
Yeah, they're guilty parties all the way around. I mean, we can't just completely leave Ben Simmons out of any type of responsibility for this at all, because I'm gonna go ahead and say it, as I brought up on the show first, I started seeing memes recently about this, but I'm the first to bring it up. I'm gonna go ahead and beat my chest. Remember, he only shot 3 for 3 in the fourth quarter in 7 games in that last series that they were in. Dude, you only took 3 shots. So yes, you're culpable for this. If you at least attempt to take shots, maybe you're not in this situation, and maybe your teammates and your coach don't have this opinion of you, which leads to you potentially getting traded. So if you play better, this doesn't happen. But at the same time, like you said, the GM is also culpable because his demands are way too high. The rent is too damn high. And it's just insane. I mean, I get what they're saying. Okay, what if Ben goes someplace else, he develops, and he becomes that star that everyone believes that he is, right? Because he is an all-star. He is a great defender. Of course, the one thing is his detriment is shooting the basketball in a game where you're required to shoot the basketball. I mean, unless you're going to be a specialist. And he's his alleged worth is way too high for him not to be a scorer in that situation. So they had no other choice but to amend the situation, see how they get through this season, and then whatever happens after that is what happens. But yeah, I want to see exactly how quickly this thing patches up. Because if he doesn't play well early, oh my God, the conspiracy theorist of Ben Simmons is trying to tank the Sixers, which absolutely makes no sense whatsoever. Right. Whenever anyone plays bad, it's not because they're trying to tank the organization, because it makes them look bad. So let me go ahead and get ahead of that cart before it starts coming out, just in case it does. Because trust me, it will, especially if the Sixers and Ben Simmons are struggling early. There are going to be those that accuse him of trying to tank the Sixers, which makes no sense.
Right. He's a professional with pride, because what I find Ben Simmons to be is very prideful.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's going to lay down and just cry his way out of town like James Harden. He's not going to do that. But here's here's I'm not a fan of James Harden. But anyway, the point is that it's messed up, because remember, at last season, people forget that they only had the best record in the East, and the East was a lot stronger it's strong this year, but it started to become strong last year, because with the big three in Brooklyn, Milwaukee doing this thing, the emergence of New York, the emergence of Atlanta, those young teams. And, it's like that now. And, Miami's already retooled and getting better. We'll talk about that later. But, I mean, it's to me, I still think talent-wise, it should work. Ben is very prideful. And again, in his defense, if your head coach and your co-star said once upon a time that they can't win with you, you're going to feel a certain kind of way. So I don't know. And your GM is making ridiculous ass asking price for him for his services. So Jared, that's why I'm struggling here.
Let me clear this up for you. Who's your favorite team, Scott?
Okay, go ahead.
Who's your favorite? Scott, who's your favorite team?
I'm a Knicks fan.
Who's your best player?
Yeah. Normally it would be Julius. What's his name? But it's
Julius Randle.
Yeah.
Who's better, Ben Simmons or Julius Randle?
Ben Simmons.
Kevin, who's your favorite team?
Well, the Cavs and the Jazz, but yeah.
Okay,
for the sake of this, I'll say Cavs.
Yeah. Okay. For either one of these, who's the best player on your team? Who's better, Ben Simmons or that player?
Well, I'd take Donovan Mitchell right now over Ben Simmons, but
okay,
Cavs,
that's a fair argument.
On the Cavs, you probably have to side with Simmons.
Dwayne,
all around game.
Same questions.
Washington Wizards. Favorite player the best player is Bradley Beal, and Bradley Beal is most definitely better.
Bradley Beal is most definitely better I got 2 out of 3 though. So that's my point.
You know what? I was sitting here wringing my hands. It's like, please ask me.
Hey, but you get the point though. 2 out of 3 here, and my favorite team is the Chicago Bulls. I would say Zach LaVine, and there's an argument both ways because LaVine's defense is so bad. It's so bad, and I've watched it, but that's another story for another day. Like that's how I clear up the Ben Simmons stuff. Like if you look at your best player, Ben Simmons is probably as good or better on most teams in the NBA. So
right,
come on now. Let's stop the slander.
Jared, what do you think about this? All right, so Ben Simmons, there's been rumors out there that he watched Giannis, and Giannis has his own issues shooting, and he thinks he can go to a team and he wants to be Giannis type player. Do you think he has the skill set to be able to do that? If in his mindset he thinks he can do that, do you believe he can do what Giannis does?
If the team is not asking him to shoot threes, if they're really asking him to not shoot and say be Giannis light, yeah, it would work. There's absolutely no reason it wouldn't. He's not as big as Giannis. Okay, that's fair, but he has the same skill set for the most part, except the finishing. And if you're not asking him to worry at all about shooting and just learn how to finish, get some post moves and work on it, I don't see why it wouldn't work after a year or two.
And here's the beautiful thing about that comparison, man, is that Giannis just doesn't care because he knows he can't shoot that well. But what does he do? He still takes shots. He still does his thing, right? I think, again, Ben is very prideful. There are videos of him shooting. Then there's one point in time in the game against your beloved Jazz last year, where Ben, I guess, got mad at the talk that Rudy Gobert was the favorite to be Defensive Player of the Year. What did he do in Salt Lake City? Sans Joel Embiid, of course, but he went for 40-some points. He went at some like 15 of 16 from free throw line. I know he missed only one free throw. And he was just tearing it out on rebounds. We all know he's a great defender. He can defend off oppositions. So it's not like the man cannot do it. We know he can do it. He knows he can do it. I just think that he, at this point, for his own like mental health, needs to go somewhere else. And I think many teams will love to have him, just not the ridiculous price that Daryl Morey is asking for. That's the main holdup, in my opinion.
So my question is this, I'm sorry to interrupt real quick, but are you guys telling me that the solution to Ben Simmons is that people are discussing moving him to the 4 or maybe even the 5?
Yes.
Wow.
Why not?
So this whole point guard
defend all
experiment is being
five.
tossed out the window.
I mean, why not? He can defend all 5 position, and why can't he still be a playmaking center? We watched Jokic do it. We've seen Anthony Davis do it. Why can't he not go down on the block and work from the elbows? There's no reason why he can't, and it's just a matter of if he wants to.
And here's the thing with Giannis, he can put up 40 points, and he doesn't have to be insecure that he shot 15 to 20% from 3 on the night to put up those 40 points.
True. Yeah.
I think Ben being in Philly, is made to feel, especially with Embiid there and the expectations that that you can't have a game like that. You can't put up 40, but if you're not also contributing shooting.
Yeah.
Well, with the position that he plays, that's the reason why he has the expectations that he does. If he's playing the 4, he's not expected to play like a guard. So yeah, if they go ahead and move him and he's willing to be moved, I'm intrigued to see if that's the move that they actually do with him.
And also, we all seen examples of this before in Draymond Green and Golden State. He's like a point forward. He's not asked to score a lot. He could do it, but he's not asked to do it. He's like Ben. He's a great defender. He's a ball distributor. He can distribute from the 4 position, and he's their leader. So I think if you surround Ben, similar to Draymond, similar to Giannis, with a bunch of snipers, and Jokic too, with a bunch of snipers, it could work. I mean, can you imagine him, like trade possibilities that Morey has probably screwed up with his ridiculous demands? Could you imagine Ben Simmons in Portland with either Dame or CJ with those shooters? Could you imagine? I don't want to, because I think one of those will have to come back to Philly in that package. But could you imagine him? They will talk about him going to Golden State. Could you imagine him with all those shooters around him? He could just be a point forward or whatever, defend the opposing team's best guy, and let the rest of Golden State Warriors cook. And also, here's another one that Chris Broussard is a favorite of his that he's been lobbying for, just because he just wants to see it all, the drama with it all happening, for Philly and Brooklyn to do a straight up swap for Ben and Kyrie. Trade your problem for my problem. The only problem is, you guys mentioned earlier, what the hell is Kyrie going to do? Is he going to show up or what?
Yeah, and it would be awesome if the two main powers in the East, if they actually agreed to do something like that. But
they're division rivals too, so yeah.
Yeah, and just to credit your point, I think as a Cavs fan, I never fully appreciated Draymond Green, but then I watched the Olympics this summer, and I was like, my God, he's so good. And just at what he does. And I think when the expectation is off, like Dwayne was saying, if we don't expect that guard-like shooting from him, like we don't expect that from Draymond. And so I can watch Draymond play in the Olympics and be like, wow, he is so good at what he does, and be so impressed, and, you know, and be like, man, I'm glad I can just appreciate right now. And I'm not a bitter Cavs fan right now. You know, like I feel like with Simmons, like, yeah, I think Dwayne was onto something there, and you're onto something too, as far as like, if that expectation is off of him and we can just appreciate what it is that he really excels at, I think the narrative starts to change.
Yeah. I totally agree with that.
You mentioned Dame and CJ earlier. I'm curious, where do you think they kind of play into the Western Conference picture?
And we can use this to transition to the rest of the conversation, as far as where do you see teams as far as like improve or dissipate it, if you will. So might as well start now. That's a good question, bro. It depends. It depends if Portland wants either two things. If Portland wants for some reason wants to rebuild, or if one of those two superstars won out. And if one of the superstars won out to the point where they have to get moved, then whoever's still left holding the bag out of those two would have to be like play-in or bust at that point, because that's the ceiling. Now, I'll say this, man. I think last year we didn't get this. Well, they did make the playoffs last year, but but the point is that if Dame and CJ have more help, I think they would be a lot better than the team would be a lot better than what they are. We've seen glimpses of how good they could be as far as a playoff picture, as far as how far they could go. Like that walk-off shot that Dame hit over.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, when he waved at Paul George and company. That was awesome. That was an awesome moment. But I think they made a conference finals that year, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's the ceiling. That was the peaking moment. That's them peaking. But I think they're capable of getting to at least the second round to play on the West Conference playoffs. I think they're that talented. Now, would they crack the upper echelon, if you will, in the out west of both LA squads, Utah, Denver? I want to throw another team in there. I'm blanking. Please don't get mad at me. Phoenix, yes, Phoenix. How can I forget about Phoenix? And yeah, that's a great story too. Phoenix and Golden State. Even one could say Golden State will have a bounce back here with a healthy Klay Thompson. So could they crack that top 6 or whatever I mentioned, 6 or 7? I think they could. Now, how far they could go, how they could navigate that top 5, 6 or 7, that remains to be seen, to be honest with you. But I mean, at least the good part about this, before I ramble too much, the good part about this season, and we can say this for the East as well, is that while there's still a handful of teams in both conferences that have a real shot, that's still more than what we're used to. Like, remember that period in the 2000s where it's just out of Cleveland or Golden State, that 4-year period? It was like, really? Like, the drama's like, really? Who's going to beat those two in the respective conferences in the playoffs? Boston came close one year, but that's it. But now at least you have a more wide open feel to it, even though, again, technically only a handful of teams in both conferences have a shot, but it still feels more wide open. So for that reason, I'm excited. I'm excited for a squad like Portland to see if they are healthy. Like if Chauncey Billups does a good job, I'm excited for what Chauncey Billups is going to do there in Portland. I think Dame and CJ are very excited to have him, which helps a lot. It helps more that he's not only a former player, but he's a made man. He has a title. He has a ring. So a well-earned ring. He was Mr. Big Shot, right? That was his nickname. So I think that to that reason, what I'm trying to say is Portland has a real shot out west. As far as how they go in the top 6 or 7, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think they might struggle with size this year when you look at their depth chart. I mean, Norman Powell's starting at small forward, and I don't know what is Norman Powell, 6'1", maybe 6'2", 6'3" is probably what he's listed at, but I don't think he's that tall. And then you got Robert Covington, I think, is their starting small forward or starting power forward, excuse me, which he's typically played the 3 in his career. And then you got Nurkic starting at center, but so it's a short lineup. I don't particularly like their depth in comparison to other teams. And I think when you look at the Western Conference, I feel like I feel like for the last few decades, it's always been teams assembling like a big 3, right? And I feel like the Western Conference right now, maybe sans like LA once they got Westbrook, it really feels like everybody's got a big 2. Clippers got Paul George and Kawhi. You just look at each team and everybody's got maybe 2 guys that you look at. Phoenix has got Chris Paul and Booker. And so when I look at, in Portland, I say, who's there too? Well, it's Lillard and McCollum. I really like Lillard. I like Lillard a lot. As far as superstars go, he's top 5, top 10, wherever you want to put him.
Right.
But as far as like who their second guy is, I like McCollum. I don't know if I like McCollum a lot, and I think that Portland maybe liked him a little too much when they gave him the money they gave him.
Sure.
And I think so. I don't necessarily think that they're built really to contend with this. I just feel like the Western Conference is so stacked still.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be hard. I feel like, I don't know. You look at that depth chart after McCollum, and yeah, I like Norman Powell. I like him. He's good. But like, do I like him as your starting small forward? Not really.
Right.
Do I like Robert
Not
Covington as
anyway.
your starting power forward? Not really.
Larry Nance Jr. is going to start a power forward. I'm going to break it to y'all right now.
Okay.
It might not be all the time, but you're going to have Larry Nance Jr. on the floor a lot more than you think.
That doesn't move the needle for me much. And as a
I'm not saying that. I'm
him.
just saying. I'm just saying like you're going to have more. He actually makes them a lot bigger when coming down the stretch, like lineup wise. Just having Larry Nance on the floor over Robert Covington gives you more shooting. So that's where it moves the needle for me because it unlocks more space. Sorry, that's my TED talk.
That's okay. Thank you for your TED talk. Well, how about this, man? And we're talking about it now, but we might as well shift out east. We already talked about the West. Again, a handful of teams, but more wide as it's been before. We already talked about Brooklyn. We already talked about Philly. We talked a little bit about Milwaukee, right? Of course, Giannis, Holiday, and what's another one? Who's the third guy?
Well, Bobby Portis isn't their third guy, but Bobby Portis,
Chris Middleton.
Middleton.
Yeah.
That's I blinked out on my bad. But those 3, and you could throw like Miami with the acquisition of I know he's older, but my man from Toronto. I mean, he brings leadership, brings defense, nasty defense, and he's a damn good shooter. And so they're hungrier. And I think last year they were worn out from the bubble. You could tell they were like fatigued. And now they got a full summer to rest. Like Jimmy Butler's still there. I like Duncan Robinson a lot. And of course, as long as it's still coached by Coach Spoelstra, they have a shot. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league. And we talked off camera about Thibodeau in New York doing his thing. Atlanta is going to be back. They're not going anywhere. So did I mention like at least for 5-6 squads right there? So it's more wide open, right, than it's been before, but it's still a handful of teams. So with all that, I'll throw it to you, Dwayne. We'll go Dwayne, Kevin, and Jared to round us out here. The question to me is, what team do you expect to either exceed expectations, maybe the ones who didn't make the playoffs last year with the acquisitions? I have one in mind out east, but I'll see if you guys pick up on that, and I'll just add it if I don't hear it. But who do you guys think out east first, then we'll work out west? Out east, who you think is going to surprise or disappoint? So, Dwayne, who do you think is going to surprise and disappoint out east this year?
Well, it's not necessarily a surprise. I mean, you kind of hinted at it a lot when you talked about acquisitions, especially in the East. It's the one team that you did not talk about, the Chicago Bulls, with the moves that they've made. You know, you talk about your Brooklyns, your Milwaukees, and your Philadelphias, and of course they're the favorites coming into the season. It's those teams under them: Atlanta, Atlanta, New York, Chicago, Charlotte. God, who else? Miami. They're who else would go in? Maybe Washington. I'm mixed with this new addition at head coach with Unseld. You already know my feelings about Unseld and the Unseld family, but I'm intrigued to see what they necessarily do with the acquisitions that they made with a new head coach and how this team is going to look. But Boston, speaking about Boston, so there's so many teams in that second tier, butting on that third tier. Kevin will tell you, even as young as Cleveland is, they still look good at spots last year. I'm wondering whether or not that necessarily carries over to this season as well. So it's that grouping in the East that's going to be fighting for spots 4 through 8, and how that battle pans out is what I'm really intrigued by. Indiana, what will Indiana do?
Yeah,
will they rebound based upon what happened with them last season as well? So it's a lot with that second tier in the East that I'm intrigued by and can't wait to see how that pans out.
How about you, Kevin?
Yeah, Dwayne kind of stole my thunder there with his last sentence there about Indiana. I'm not saying Indiana's going to be a contender or a challenge, but as far as a team that didn't make the playoffs that I think could sneak into like the 7th or 8th seed, Rick Carlisle has made a career out of getting the most out of mediocre.
Damn
roster.
Good coach. Yeah, he's a damn good coach.
And you look at the roster; it's pretty talented. I think Karis LeVert. I think he's kind of on the cusp. I was really disappointed when Brooklyn moved him last year because I really wanted to see what Durant and Irving could do with some of those young guys. But Harden was a no-brainer, I guess, for him. But Karis LeVert, Malcolm Brogdon, Sabonis, Warren is a great scorer. So they have pieces for Carlisle to work with, and I think what Rick Carlisle has always needed to succeed, even like I said, he gets the most out of kind of some mediocre rosters he has historically in his career. But what he has always needed is a guy, and you could say that of any coach, but as far as whether it was Dirk, or whoever, and so who's that going to be in for the Pacers? And I think if LeVert continues to ascend, maybe it will be him. But as far as a team that will underachieve, I don't think that the 76ers are going to be the 1 seed. And I think, largely due to just in-house drama and, the locker room being what it is and team chemistry being what it is, I think they'll make the playoffs. I'm not necessarily thinking they're going to make a whole lot of noise, but as far as underachieving, I don't know. I think I might put the Sixers finishing 4th, and I think that would be a surprise if they finish that low. So I'll go with them for my underachievers.
That's a good one. How about you, Jay?
All right. For me, I'm going to say somebody that's going to exceed expectations is going to be, you touched on him a little bit, the Miami Heat.
Yeah, that's my
Adding
one.
Kyle Lowry is
Yeah.
a big deal. Like you said, just for the leadership, and he's been there. I mean, yes, he exercised some demons because of Kawhi, and whatever, he helped him along and did what he needed to do. But you just look at the Miami Heat roster as a whole. You have Bam Adebayo, who's at this point 2 times, he's been in the All-Star game. He's shown up in big moments. He's been everything you want a number 2 to be. Jimmy Butler, while he has his shooting demons as well, is a solid number 1 option at this point in his career, I think. That's just my assessment. Maybe that's a little skewed because I'm Bulls fan and he played for the Bulls and one of my favorite players. So, maybe I can admit to that. But you look at guys even going a little bit farther down the roster, like Tyler Hero. You look at a kid that was 19 and had a big performance in the playoff bubble the year before, and
Right.
kind of let down in his second year. Progress isn't, on a straight line.
Right.
So I expect he came back looking like he had been serious about getting his body in shape for this basketball season in the off season. And that just leads me to believe he worked on his game. He worked on his game as well as getting his body in shape. So I expect a big bounce back year from him. And the team can, Miami can just shoot. They can run the floor. They're going to play a slow pace and they're going to grind out games because they're going to be so solid defensively. So that's where I would say they're going to overachieve. And for an underachieving team, I'm a Chicago Bulls fan, and maybe it's scarring, but I think the Bulls are going to kind of underachieve here. I don't like where they're going with the team. I don't necessarily like DeRozan being there. I like DeMar DeRozan, don't get me wrong, but the spacing on the team is okay at best, and I just don't see how it's going to work out.
Interesting. Well, I'll say this, man. I really like Miami. And it's weird being an old school Knicks fan from the 90s, remember those brutal Miami, New York playoff battles. And I'm still a bit mad at Pat Riley for jumping ship, but that's another story for the other day. But I always like this team. I like the tough makeup. I like the grit. Let's put it this way, they're like the best Memphis teams with talent. Those Memphis teams with Marc Gasol and that Randolph, Zach Randolph, the Grindhouse. I think they call them the Grindhouse.
Grit and grind.
Yeah, that's Miami. That's Miami's Memphis with talent, with red offensive talent. So and coaching too. They're well coached. Again, I'm a big fan of Coach Spoelstra. I'm a huge fan of his. So I think they're going to come out this season with a vengeance. I think they're going to really kick some ass. And especially look at what's going on in Philly, what's going on in Brooklyn as far as potential chemistry issues. I think Miami's going to just look at that. The only team really that stays away from a cohesion standpoint is Milwaukee. Milwaukee, they're looking to repeat. They're not looking to go anywhere. And you look at New York, they're youngish, but Atlanta's very young. They got a taste. They're not going anywhere. So I think it's going to be very interesting this season as far as what will Miami do. That's who I'm going to keep my eye on for the majority of the season, because we already know what Brooklyn and Philly could do. We already know what's going on there. We have a feeling that New York and Atlanta is going to improve upon last season. But I'm really looking at Miami because of the acquisitions. I love that Kyle Lowry addition. I'm really intrigued with the Heat. As far as we could transition to the West now, we'll go backwards this time. Jay, Kevin, and Dwayne. But as far as my surprise, oh my God. It would shock me. I know I mentioned this squad as one of the teams that could be possibly contenders, but it would shock me if Golden State takes a huge step. It wouldn't shock me because they're getting, especially if Klay Thompson's fully healthy, because you got another shooter now. to go along with Steph, to go along with the defense, the leadership of Draymond Green. That's what remember, though that core won a title before Kevin Durant arrived. They're totally capable. James Wiseman, I want to see how he does in the second season. I think he has skills, and he's in the I don't want to say perfect because nothing's perfect, but in a prime position to succeed because he has a guy in Draymond who's been a willing mentor that's been helping him. And he's been open about how much Draymond's been a big help to him on and off the court. So I think it's going to help Wiseman a lot. And Wiseman, I think he's a future star once he gets his legs underneath him and his confidence back up. And of course, they're still coached by Steve Kerr. And I just think it would surprise me if they push LA and Phoenix. Now, I was speaking of LA, the teams I think will disappoint. It would shock me if the Clippers take a few steps back because Kawhi won't be fully healthy for a while. But even though I've seen what happens, how they play without Kawhi last year's playoffs, they push Phoenix. Some may argue if with a healthy Kawhi, they would have beaten Phoenix. Some people are saying that. They lost to Phoenix in 6, and they won game 5 in Phoenix before they ran out of gas in game 6 at Staples Center. But I mean, if I'm thinking of them, of a team that can go back to the pack, so to speak, is out of the Clippers. I can't really think of who else would be a potential disappointment per se. Because I think Phoenix will still be around. I think Phoenix is not going anywhere anytime soon because you got Chris Paul back, with the 2 young stars. And Monty Williams is still coaching. They're not going anywhere. So to me, that's my 2 surprises and positive, negative. I think Golden State's going to take a huge jump. And I think the Clippers is going to come back to the pack a little bit just because they don't have Kawhi, and you still got to question the chemistry issues a bit too. So there's always something with the Clippers, but that's what I think, Jay. So floor is yours.
All right, so I'm going to go opposite of what you did here. I'm going to go ahead and go with a team that I think is really going to disappoint.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what everybody's expectations here are of the New Orleans Pelicans, but whatever they are, they're going to disappoint you. Zion's hurt, number 1, and number 2, who here is sold on Zion Williamson at all? Can you right now sell me that he's going to be a future star in this league? Can you really do that?
He keeps his weight down, maybe, but that's a maybe.
Like I can't talk myself into him at all. So you can't really talk me into Brandon Ingram either. Maybe a third banana. I just don't. That's whatever fair. Expectations you have of this team, I don't think they're going to meet them. It's just the situation there just hasn't been good. You got rid of Lonzo Ball. I mean,
yeah,
right.
And you don't really bring anybody that can push the ball the way that Zion needs to. And if you're going to have Zion just bring the ball up the floor himself every time, you're not going to get any defense from him anyway.
Wear him down.
Yeah, it's just I just do not see it working out there. As for a team that I think is going to surprise you, I have said my piece with Kevin on this. I think Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks can surprise everybody at any given time. I don't care who is with him as his running mate. If Kristaps Porzingis can get healthy, just watch out. I'm completely sold on what Luka Doncic can do. That's my piece on it.
He's a stud. I love it. I loved him since he got drafted. He's a bona fide stud. When he had that step back 3 at his rookie season at the Clippers, I like, yo. He's the real deal, man.
I said it that year on draft, all leading up to the draft, Luka Doncic should go number 1. There should be no ifs, ands, or buts, and there are no ifs, ands, or buts.
There you go. Well said, brother. How about you, Kevin?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think just to Jared's point, I mean, what Luka did in the Olympics proves that it doesn't matter who his teammates are. But
True.
as far as the team I'll start with the team that'll disappoint, because near and dear to my heart, I think the Jazz aren't going to be the number 1 seed in the West again. I think they were benefited last year from some injuries on some other teams. I also think they got exposed a little bit in the playoffs by Phoenix. And they also just didn't really do anything in the offseason. They added like Hassan Whiteside, and they drafted Jared Butler out of Baylor in the second round, hoping that he can get healthy and maybe be a surprise. But like they really didn't add anything significant to this team. They're kind of just running it back with a lot of the guys they had. And I don't know. I just, as a fan of the team, I think, and maybe that's why I'm picking them to be the disappointment, because there's some bias there. I was just disappointed in like any lack of creativity or aggression in the offseason. There was talk that they were shopping, Bogdanovich, and they were shopping Ingles, and maybe teams weren't interested in guys in their mid 30s who can only shoot threes and do not a whole lot of other things. But they just didn't do enough for me to feel like they're going to repeat as far as getting the best record in the West like they did last year. And then as far as surprises, I was I'm gonna go with Golden State here, and then Scott went with Golden State, and I was like, all right, I gotta pick somebody else, and I was like, I'll go with Dallas, and then Jared picked Dallas. So you guys kind of took mine on those, and I was like, I could try to force a narrative for some third team, but I'm not gonna do that. So because I don't want to sound dumb. So I'll just take the baton from you two and say I agree with everything you said about Golden State and Dallas.
Cool. All right. There's nothing wrong with that. Great minds think alike. How about you, D?
Well, I mean, I'm copying off of everybody's paper since everybody already went first, and I guess. Is it necessarily a surprise? Because I mean, you're bringing back Clay. You have Wiggins on that squad now with Clay coming back. The team was making strides last year, got into that playing game. So I expect God, it's kind of a no-brainer that Golden State is expected to make the biggest jump out of everyone else. But the one team that I thought would take the furthest step back, and it's kind of contrary to what everyone else believes, and that's the Dallas Mavericks, because of the fact that they didn't necessarily make any additions. The same way that Kevin feels about the Utah Jazz, I kind of feel that way about Dallas. But again, Luka's Luka, right?
Yes,
but
he
the
is.
thing is, how much will Luka being Luka be able to keep the Dallas Mavericks at least? What were they? They were the 4th seed last year, right?
I think the 5th seed.
The 5th seed?
Yeah, because the Clippers were the 4th seed, because they played the
Clippers. So yeah, they were the 4th.
Round.
That's right. They were the 5th.
Yeah.
They were the 5th.
Yeah.
So okay, I can see them still being a 5th, maybe a 6th, and God, is a 6th a drop off though? Not necessarily. But because the one team that I'm thinking about, and I don't know necessarily what everyone else's expectations of this team is, and it wouldn't be right if we're talking about the NBA and don't talk about this team at all, the old ass Lakers, and the fact that what do we get from them?
Right.
Yeah, right. So,
Kevin, what did you call the Cavs back in the day?
What's that?
That's what I called the Cavs back in the day. I called them the Gerontology Club. I think that club follows LeBron wherever he goes.
the LAAARPs? Is that what we want to call them? Yeah, okay.
Very nice.
Matter of fact, that's about to be a t-shirt.
Do it. You're a graphics designer. Do it. Do it.
Hey, I've already got Skinzamax already waiting with this whole investigation with the Washington football team already on deck. So the LAARP might be on deck too.
Oh man!
But yeah, I don't know what everyone's expectation of them is. I mean, of course, with the new addition of Westbrook, and as much as I didn't necessarily want to see him leave, I'm waving bye because what we can do with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm intrigued to see what Washington does. But of course, we're not talking about the East no more. We're talking about the West. I'm still trying to figure out who are the Lakers are the Lakers, because they're not what the Lakers were 2 years ago when they were champions, and they're not what they were last year when they were old and tired and complaining about the amount of games and how early the season started, and they got a new addition, and now they broke back White, which everybody thought was a bad move to let him go.
Mhm.
But at the same time, are they a 2, 3, 4 seed now? I don't know. I don't know. So I'm still trying to figure out, and I guess we won't find out. Time will only tell what the Lakers actually are. But that's another team that I'm keeping my eye on whether or not they're going to be who they once were,
Mhm.
or they're not going to meet expectations of everyone else going into the season. Because aren't a lot of people expecting them to be the favorites out of the West?
The
Because
Lakers,
of those additions?
the Lakers,
Yeah.
yes.
I,
Yes.
and that's the other thing too. What are we considering to be success or failure? Regular season or what happens in the playoffs? Because even if they're a low seed, I said this last year, but they just looked tired and bad. And LeBron was taking bad shots in the playoffs too, something that we normally don't see him do or
Right.
haven't seen him do in a very long time. So I'm just one of the situations where I think he just wanted to be out of the playoffs, but I'm not going to be conspiracy brother today. But maybe he has new vigor now with these new players and Dwight coming back. Yeah, that's the team I'm really going to keep my eye on. I'm not necessarily looking at them as favorites, but if they have matchups that favor them and they don't look like the lethargic Lakers of last season, and they don't necessarily meet the expectations of the LAARP Lakers that I think that they are,
Mhm.
they're going to be interesting.
Well, quickly, I'm gonna throw around the bend, the three of y'all, Dwayne, Kevin, and Jared. Quickly, who's gonna be in the finals next year? I have I have Milwaukee, and I'm gonna go outside the box here. I'm gonna go Milwaukee and Phoenix again. I got those two again. The way things looking right now, it's probably gonna change, but I got those two right now in the finals. So Dwayne, who are your two in the finals?
Man, you know how I always question whether or not the panty gave us not the panty, the panty, PANI. I don't want nobody thinking I'm talking about draws. The panty gave us asterisk champions or maybe asterisk contenders, were guys who traditionally wouldn't compete well,
Mhm.
got an opportunity to do so.
Sure.
With that said, as much turmoil as that team is going through right now, and I don't necessarily trust one of their players that a lot of people, for whatever reason, have trust in. I'm looking at the Brooklyn Nets coming out of the East,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna go LA Clippers.
Mm.
I'm gonna go LA Clippers.
Out of
I'm
the
gonna
box.
be daring.
Cool.
Yeah.
How about you, Kevin?
Yeah, I lacked creativity in the previous segment, and I'm gonna lack creativity again. I just when I'm asked
All right.
this question, I have to think. All right, if I'm in Vegas and I have to put my money on somebody, despite the odds probably not getting me the most return, just the safest bet. I'm gonna go with Dwayne in Brooklyn, and I'm gonna go with Brooklyn, not even despite everything going on, all the drama going on with Kyrie and will he play, won't he play?
Mhm.
Number one, I have to back up that I said he'd be on the team at some point this year, whether or not that was a dumb take or not to open this. But even secondary, like if you look at their lineup minus Kyrie, I think it's a really good lineup, even without him. If you have Harden running point, you've got Durant, and then you surround them with Joe Harris, who's a great shooter, and then Bruce Brown, who's just crazy athletic, does a little bit of everything. And I feel like any championship team needs a player like Bruce Brown. I don't think that that's a really talented lineup, and I think that so I'm gonna go with them in the East, because if KD can stay healthy and keep his feet back, I think they can go far. And then out west, I'm gonna go with the Lakers. I don't know if there's ever been a show that I've been on with Scott or Jared where I've ever picked against LeBron. So
There's
again,
none. There's none.
I can confirm that.
Loyal to a fault as a LeBron fanboy. And I think their lineup, yeah, they have a lot of old guys, but they had some interesting young pieces that kind of joined the party, like with Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk. And so there's some shooting there that they didn't have last year. and some youth that they didn't have last year. I think Dwight Howard is such a huge upgrade over Gasol. Gasol was kind of just like, you know, just a large guy that took up space at the end of his career there. And then, and you know, Rondo coming back, I think is a huge boost as well. I think even when Westbrook has to be out, if Rondo's on the court, I think Rondo and AD just classically even go back to their Pelicans days, have always had such chemistry. So if they can figure it out, if they can figure out a way to, how do all these personalities fit best, who fits best as a starting unit, who fits best coming off the bench, you know, even a guy like Melo who has shown that he showed in Portland, he's willing to take on whatever role a team needs. He's at that point in his career, and he's humbled himself in Portland. And I think whether he's coming off the bench or whether he's you know, starting, he has enough left in the tank to be effective in whatever role they choose for him. But if they can figure it all out and how all of these puzzle pieces work together, I think that they can come out of the West. And, you know, health will be a big factor for both teams, but those are my picks.
Cool. And last but not least, JS, what you got?
Okay, well, I'm going to agree with Kevin on this one, but I will be creative and force a narrative for two teams just for the fun of it. I'm going to say Chicago comes out East because I love them and it's just going to happen in my dreams. And I am going to say out West, it would be the Denver Nuggets. And I don't know how much I'm necessarily forcing that narrative. If Jamal Murray comes back healthy and the team is gelled and Michael Porter Jr. has taken a step forward and everything just kind of comes together in the playoffs, I don't necessarily feel like I'm forcing anything because Aaron Gordon is there as well. And
I like Denver.
You know, the reigning MVP is on the team. So there's my narrative on them. I think the Nuggets could make some noise and possibly make the finals if the matchups fall properly.
All right, we're going to close the segment with these two gentlemen, Jared and Kevin, because I know we talked off camera about y'all was out to talk college football so a little bit. So we're going to close the segment with some college football. So with Jared and Kevin, myself, we all three are greater Cincinnati residents, and we love our college football. So I saw this on not Fansided, but Barstool. I saw this on Barstool's Twitter as they had a border war between Barstool UC and Barstool Ohio State. It was a silly ass question to ask on social media because people who follow college football closely know what the answer is, regardless of how they're situated right now. But the question was asked, and Jared, if you want to talk about more stuff with college football, you can, but the question with college football was on the Barstool was, who's better right now? Who's the state of Ohio's best team? Is the Ohio State University, or is the upstart University of Cincinnati with 2 wins under the belt, currently rated in the top 3, above one Ohio State, which is I think 7th or 8th?
They're up to 6 now.
Oh, 6, my bad. 6. So I think despite where everything is right now, despite us being me being a Cincinnati area resident,
on this question.
Exactly. It's Ohio State. It's not even close. Ohio State would beat them damn near almost a sweep in the 7-game series. That's just my opinion. So Jared, you can talk about what you want with college football, but I want you to answer that question right quick. Who's the best college team in Ohio right now?
Okay. Best out of 7 series, it's going to be Ohio State.
Yeah.
They're more athletic. They have they're a bigger program, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. They have the money behind them. Kevin, I know you agree with this, but it would be nice to see UC just for the narrative of it. So yes, the best team in the state is Ohio State.
I can't believe that was in the question on social media, but sorry about that. Go ahead.
It's okay. So my thing is now the NCAA is allowing players to get paid. I don't care that it's not the worst thing in the world that these kids can now sign an autograph and make $5.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I do not care about any of this. Fine. You got the big schools that are paying, much more. And you know what? It's the wealth gap. In every sport, there's big markets and small markets.
Right.
So at this point, I am not upset because now these kids can make money. And that is all I really wanted to get out of my system on college football, because now that the NCAA is finally allowing the kids to get paid, I'm actually paying more attention and enjoying the product more because I don't feel like these kids are being taken advantage of.
Well said. And you know what's cool? You know, y'all know about this, that he's a softball quarterback now. At Alabama, he signed that close to $1 million endorsement deal for a car dealership or two.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey.
Big market, small market.
The mullet, Quinn Ewers at Ohio State, won't even take a snap and is already making over $100,000 from some various endorsements. And I want to say this: I appreciate Scott and Jared not making me answer the Ohio State Cincinnati question, because I've grinded for years on Twitter to get to my 580 followers, and as someone who claims on Twitter to love all Ohio sports and claims to be a fan of both the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Cincinnati Bearcats, even though a lot of people hate that about me, I don't have to risk losing half of my followers on either side, because I think half of my followers are Ohio State fans and the other half are Bearcats fans. So I can just sit that one out, and you guys answered it for me. So yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Hey man, thank y'all for coming on, Kevin and Jared.
Yes.
It's always a treat having Kevin on to talk NBA, but Jared, finally got your ass on the Zoom podcast. I've been hyping you up for God knows how long. Kevin can speak to that duel that I normally would rap with every other Saturday. I mean, whenever that materializes again, I hope to be back with y'all. That's a lot of fun. And, good times. So I'm glad that at least my co-host, Dwayne, got to meet you, Jared. So again, thank you again, you and Kevin, for coming on and talking NBA. We're going to be having both of your asses back on here a lot more. Now the NBA is about to keep going, because it's going to be a lot of storylines and everything else. So thank you both, man. Jared, Kevin, thank you, brothers. Appreciate you
for having us.
All right.
Thank you for having me on. My apologies. I kind of went silent on social media for a while. I needed a break.
Yeah.
And
understandable, bro.
Messages were missed. We'll put it that way.
Okay. Appreciate that. We'll be right back to talk about more college football and HBCU sports. All right, welcome back. Thank you. Thanks to our guys, Kevin McCune and Jared Singleton. Those are my two NBA guys that bring the pain every single time. It's nice. We've had Kevin on the video version of this podcast, but never had Jared on here before. Like, he was on the audio many times before, but it was good to have them two on here to rap with us, give them the insights in the NBA, upcoming NBA season. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the brothers are a lot smarter than me. So
I know. That's why I'm on. They bring me insight that I never knew. So props to them. So anyway, we're going to close out a great NBA segment and bring some drama with the NFL as pertains to Jon Gruden. Yo, I mean, talk about things. Do you know that meme that picked up from Anchorman that had Will Ferrell's character go, man, that escalated quickly. We sit back in the chair. That happened with Jon Gruden, right? So Jon Gruden's squad went from a promise of 3-1 start to drama all of a sudden about a racist trope he made in an email from 2011 calling DeMaurice Smith rubber lips, right? Which he used which I thought was a BS excuse of saying that he calls people who lie rubber lips. I'm just paraphrasing. And I'm like, come on, we're not stupid. So he also said that, I guess in his way of trying to get ahead of some shit, he said that there are more emails that he was not proud of, as well as because he knew more was coming down the pipe. And boy, did it come down the pipe. Like in 2011, around the time when he made that comment about DeMaurice Smith, because he was pissed off about the lockout. Mm-hmm. He made a few disparaging remarks about Roger Goodell.
Yeah.
In some 2011 emails. And I'm not a big fan of Roger Goodell. Goodell, as you know, I call him Goodell. I just have to call him Goodell. But goddamn, you're gonna call him those words?
Yeah.
Those homophobic like slurs?
Yeah.
And the man, Roger Goodell, does have a gay younger brother, which is which is not ironic, but still kind of plays into that as well. But that's another subject for another time. And speaking of homophobic sayings, he came down hard on the NFL, forcing the St. Louis Rams to draft Michael Sam because they don't, and I'm paraphrasing the quote out what he said, the NFL has no room for queers. And he made some more disparaging remarks about women.
Yeah.
Showed off like emails, topless cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Used misogynistic language.
Uh-huh.
From ranging not just 10 years ago, going from 2010 to 2018.
Yeah.
All right. Sure, he was not in the league for the majority of that, but didn't Jon Gruden become coach in 2009? Was it 2009 he became coach of the Raiders again?
I thought it was because he's only in year 4 of his contract, which makes me believe that it was 2017.
All right.
I'll check to make sure, but
Okay.
I think it's just 2017.
So either way, this dude was sending these emails around the time where he was about to work for the NFL again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people tickle me. And let me just, before this, let me read this statement he made. This is what he said, like last week. It was Friday, actually.
Uh-huh.
Quote, I was in a bad frame of mind at the time, in 2011, and I called Roger Goodell a bleep in one of those emails too. They were keeping players and coaches from doing what they love with a lockout. There also were a lot of things being reported publicly about the safety of the sport that I love. I was on a mission with high school football during that time, and there were a lot of parents who were scared about letting their kids play football. It just didn't sit well with me. End of quote. Now, the funny thing was, you wonder how they got their hands on these emails in the first place. They got their hands on those emails, while probing your squad, the Washington football team, of their workplace drama and their toxic environment, which came to light last year, which led to my opinion, which one of the factors was led to Danny Boy Snyder, the owner, dropping the moniker Redskins from their team. I truly believe the combination of what happened with George Floyd with what went on in his organization, has been going on in his organization, coming to light, with the sponsors saying, no more. I think that led to Danny Boy dropping the Redskins moniker, that slur, that Native American slur. For those who don't know, if you ask any Native American, or do some Googling on yourself if you don't feel like asking Native Americans, that term that I mentioned is the Native American N-word.
Yeah.
That's the N-word. So that's like calling the Washington N-words, or insert slurred Jewish slur, or white American slur, whatever.
Well, I mean, there's some fans of the Washington football team that say, look at that N-word go anyway. So it is what it is.
There you go. So what it is what it is, right. Especially back in the George Preston days, but that's not here for the
well, yeah, especially
George
back then,
Preston Marshall. George Preston Marshall, excuse me.
George Marshall, yes, sir. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
not to stereotype, but a lot of those Western Maryland fans out there. Yeah.
Oh, you're not stereotyping. You're telling the truth. I'm gonna come out and say it.
Yeah.
I lived in the DC area, as you know, for 3 years in Northern Virginia. That's very true. So
yeah,
we may piss off some people in Western Maryland, but y'all know we're telling the truth. But that's not here nor there. And he's waking up. I like it. Right quick, a buddy of mine who's from the Eastern Shore area, who grew up in the Eastern Shore, still lives in the DC area now, married to one of my wife's best friends from college. He told me straight up, he's like, Scott, there are 3 parts of Maryland. There's the Eastern Shore. He describes this. He's from the Eastern Shore. It's the salt of the earth.
Yeah.
Down home
some nice people out there. Yeah.
Down home people.
You
have Baltimore. And then you have Western Maryland, which is where his words, Clan land, Fredericksburg, on that way. And from traveling through the area to go to Ohio to visit my wife's family and driving back, that is very true.
Yes, it is.
That is very, very true. We didn't even bother to get out the car. Once we passed Fredericksburg, we're like, screw this. We're going to get into Pennsylvania first, at Washington, Pennsylvania, where it has a big old rest stop to get out.
Yeah.
We're not stupid. We just seeing shit on the side of the roads and just taking your mental picture of everything around you. That's a very true statement of Western Maryland. So y'all may get mad at us. We're just telling the truth. And you know you're telling the truth. But we're getting off topic now, so we'll stick on topic.
Exactly, right?
My bad. But point is...
No. I kind of baited you on that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. But the point is that with this investigation with the Washington football team leading to these emails from Jon Gruden, one has to wonder if Jon Gruden was comfortable with sending those emails. Nothing is going to come to the light of day. What does it say about the recipients? And I'm looking at you, Bruce Allen. You're one of his best friends. A lot of those emails were addressed to you. Okay? You were formerly of the Washington football team brass during that time. It's you. And Keyshawn Johnson said something very interesting this week. He said that he wasn't, it's not that he wasn't, he already knew that Jon Gruden was a phony. He called him a phony straight up. But the part he was hurt about the most was Bruce Allen, because he's known Bruce Allen apparently since he was a kid. And he was in high school. And so he's used to, like, the point where he had his number on speed dial, saved on his phone. So when he saw that, allow address to Bruce Allen, to feel comfortable saying those things to Bruce Allen, Jon Gruden did, it gave Keyshawn pause. It's to the point where Keyshawn was like, he came this close to calling Bruce, like, what's up with this? And then he was like, you know what? No. He already knows what's up. So I see him making that look. I know what that look is, but let me get your thoughts real quick, because I think with the NFLPA calling for more emails to be brought today or to be leaked, people could argue, since it was originally a Washington football team investigation and Jon Gruden's emails got leaked, that someone had a hit out for Jon Gruden anyway, which may be true. There's maybe some truth to that. I don't know. But the point is that I think this is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
I think that there's some things that NFL does not want to come out to light, because if this comes to light that he sent this to owners, and front office around the NFL, man, oh man, is things going to be popping off with regard to player relationships and trust with these cats. But let me get your thoughts real quick, because this is your team, and this is where the Jon Gruden emails came from. So I want to get your perspective on this.
Yeah, see, this is my Martin Luther King pose, right? Let you know that I'm being very introspective, and my hamster wheel is really spinning. So let me start from the beginning, right?
Right.
When the initial news came out about the responses or the comments about D. Smith, that's what I call the Morris, because you're from the streets, call him D. Smith.
Right.
My initial response was very similar to the Las Vegas Raiders, which was he wasn't with the organization at the time.
Correct.
I see cancel culture has gotten us to this place now, right?
Right.
Where we have to defend stuff like this now.
Yeah, and we're not calling for guys to be canceled because of this. This is much more nuanced than that. But go ahead.
Oh yeah. So when that news came out, my initial thought was he wasn't with the organization at the time. He shouldn't necessarily be reprimanded for actions he did some 7 years before he got with the organization, which was his first season was 2018.
Right.
Right. And even Mike Tirico and Tony Dungy came to his defense as well.
Especially Tony Dungy, especially him.
And, and based upon the information that they knew at the time, which was about D. Smith, that's why they came to his defense, not this other stuff, right? because they probably felt the same way I felt, which was he shouldn't be fired for an offense he committed 7 years before having the job.
Right.
It is what it is. And I hate the fact that people came down on him because of that. But I digress, right? So once that didn't hit the way it was supposed to, I guess, that's when the other Jon Gruden emails were released. Because let's not get this misunderstood. When that first email about D. Smith came out, they had the others on deck already.
Yes.
They just thought that a racial trope would be one to go ahead and get him out of there, not realizing that the Raiders would be like, nah, we're not going to let him go because of that. That wasn't done on our watch. We really can't handle him. They were like, oh, the Raiders are going to do that? Then let's go ahead.
And the people who are defending him about this? Yeah.
Yes. And people are defending him about this? Oh, my God. They're not going to stand up for the black man on this one? Okay, let's go ahead and release these other ones. And I was like, uh-oh. Now, what you're not going to do is be racist, regardless of how you feel about that statement. You talk about, rubber lips is what you call somebody who is lying, whatever, man. You said what you said about CTE, maybe not the right way. I share your feelings, even as a parent, where my thought is, get coaches, train these little league coaches better so they can train these or coach these little kids better so that they know how to properly tackle.
Right.
I don't want to just shut down the game, but I understand why people have fears of having their kids play. I completely get it. But a lot of it comes from bad instruction. You start from the lower level and you rise up to the top and you train these kids to tackle properly. The injuries are probably reduced, but that's another conversation for another time.
Sure.
So the conversations about CTE, conversations about the lockout, conversations about D. Smith, then the conversations about Roger Goodell, all of that stuff, troubling, just not enough to get them out.
Right.
Now you start making homophobic slurs. Now you out there starting to commit crimes because you're sending new photos of people who don't know that new photos are being sent out. And then when I heard Bruce Allen's name was tossed in the mix, I said, here comes Washington. I knew it, right? Because before people started making the attachment to the, I forget the proper name of the investigation, but the investigation that was held last summer, the email investigation, not just the email investigation, but the what's the word I'm looking for here? The the behavior of the organization, that investigation in which the team was going through, and I was like, this is part 2 electric boogaloo to this. Okay, cool. The thing is, though, how will it be handled? As the great Shalimar used to sing, a second time around, right?
Yes. Great song.
How will it be handled this time? Because as we all know, for those that follow the original investigation, that they had all of the evidence. They were supposed to run said investigation. And oddly enough, the information from that investigation was just tossed to the side and it was all forgiven and the hands were wiped clean of it. So much so that the minority owners that were trying to get Daniel Snyder out of Washington, they all lost their spots. Daniel Snyder got full control of the organization. He put his wife in control of certain things. And now he's running the ship. Now, you talk about the name. The only reason why, of course, the name got changed was why? Sponsors got involved.
That's correct.
Right? And when the money gets you, the money is what make everybody talk. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Because again, this is a business.
Money doesn't just talks, it hollers. That's what Chris.
Yes, right? Yeah. So when the money started hollering, you got to listen to the money. You got to make a move, begrudgingly so. And And that's why the name is no longer what it is, right? But a lot of the people who were involved in that investigation are no longer with the Washington organization.
Right.
So, in essence, it kind of makes Teflon, as I've been referring to him over the past couple of days, Teflon Dan still Teflon, because all those guys who probably attached those emails, with the exception of Dan, probably, and let's be real, Dan was probably a part of those email chains too.
I'm sure he was.
Yeah, so a lot of those guys, because you got to remember, part of the stuff, and I wish I would have thought about it then. When the investigation was going on, one of the things that came out was the fact that, you know, when the cheerleading squad would do their photo shoots out of the country, you know, the swimsuit photo shoots for their calendars, there will be instances where there will be topless or maybe even bottomless photos of the cheerleaders taken, right? And it was asked of that staff to make a mixtape of said photos and videos so they can spread it around amongst their boys, which is why I've nicknamed them Skinzamax, right?
Wow.
So when that happened, I should have thought, hey, maybe they can email these stuff out too. But I was like, maybe not, right? Now we know that stuff was emailed out, and there's a huge chance that those photos that were involved with Jon Gruden came from Brucey B and probably even Jay Gruden, because Jay was here as the head coach too, and that's his brother Brucey B, or AKA Bruce Allen, is also his boy too. So yes, my guess is that all of those photos and all that stuff was involved in those emails, which has now led to those women that were involved in the original investigation to come out along with the NFL Players Association and petition the sponsors of the league to now get involved and work on the NFL to get them to continue this investigation, because there are a lot of criminal suits that are involved in this as well, which could potentially mess up the league money. But I'm sorry, mess up the league money through its sponsorships, especially if they do get involved. And that was the one thing I said would have to happen in order for the league to listen. Sponsors have to get involved, and now they've already been petitioned. I'm interested in seeing what direction this goes into now, because one of the things everyone thought would happen didn't happen the first time.
Right.
Now the sponsors may get involved this time again, which will force the hands of the owners to potentially have to remove Daniel Snyder as owner from the Washington football team, which will probably be a lovely day for those here in the DC area. But as of right now, I don't believe it until I see it, because Teflon Dan has been through so much already, and he's still here with more power.
Yeah.
Yo.
Don't you think that sorry about that, but don't you think
right.
the NFL, to your point,
Uh-huh.
I think that they really want Danny Boy Snyder just to go the fuck away. I really do.
Well, now they do, yeah. Because they're like, oh my God, the stuff that we thought was over, to quote Teddy Riley, it ain't over.
Right.
The stuff we thought we were done with in 2020 has reared its ugly head again, but we had to go ahead and get a scapegoat in Jon Gruden, because no one else that was probably involved other than Danny Boy is in the league right now.
Right.
So somebody had to take a fall, and the easiest person to take said fall was Jon Gruden. So I want to see how this develops. I want to see how this continues, because I want to see whether or not Big Boss Dan Snyder sticks around again at the end of this, because this is just like a horror movie now. You know, you think that the villain is dead, only for him to come back and come back stronger next go around.
Into was it Michael Myers was Friday the 13th or Halloween?
Man, Mike Myers is Halloween, but you know, Friday the 13th, Jason Voorhees, Fred Krueger, don't matter, Chucky, whatever. Well, oddly enough, now that you say that, right, there's some that believe that Jon Gruden decided to resign on Monday because he was taking a new position and a new job over at the Sci-Fi Network, because they're starting
that series,
the Chucky series as of yesterday. But I digress.
That's funny.
But and I want to touch on Keyshawn Johnson,
yeah,
real quick,
yeah, man,
because first and foremost, the whole used car salesman thing, and you thought he was a phony, and you went down your feelings with him winning with Tony
I saw you
Dungy's
give him the side eye
boys.
look like this.
Yeah, because because this was he said something. You quoted him and saying some stuff that bothered me to my core.
Gotcha.
If you knew he was this used car salesman and you hated him so much, why did it take you so long to say something, dog? It's been 20 years since you won a Super Bowl trophy with this dude, and now you say something about how bad he is? Really? Now? You had to wait for somebody else to say something in order for you to say something.
Well,
But-
I think he's been saying stuff off and on around the time, not when he got released, but around the time when he got released. But there's people come on down him like they come on T.O. They deem him the problem, that other circumstances surrounding the team as the problem, has become the light that there were other issues outside of those two cats.
Exactly.
On those teams. But that's
neither here nor there.
Yeah,
but the one thing I really want to touch on is especially your comments that you just said about him and his feelings towards Bruce Allen.
Yes, Bruce Allen.
Right?
Yes.
My God.
Yeah.
I remember there were a lot of people here in the DC area who were happy when Bruce Allen was coming over, replacing Benny Serrato, because they were like, oh my God, at least a football man is coming through here in DC.
I remember that.
Take over as team president and GM. I still had questions because of his track record in terms of drafting players and turning teams around, because it wasn't that stellar in Oakland or LA before coming to DC. And I didn't think he was going to instantaneously have success coming here. And I was right. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of things that I did not like about Bruce Allen as an executive. And then hearing things before the news came out about the investigation about Bruce Allen and how much of a jerk he is, that bothered me. And then the investigation came up. And then that really bothered me. But yet you thought this dude was a bad dude and was a cool dude. You can see that Bruce is cool, but John is the asshole.
Yeah.
Word? What was your asshole detective with Bruce Allen? I saw that. Outside of the fact that he wasn't a good executive. I saw that part too. Asshole, but you couldn't see that, bruh? Man, shut your mouth, man. You just running your mouth now. I understand that's your job. I get it. But when you come to the defense of Bruce Allen, you really offended me at that point. That's why I made the faces, because I was like, there's no way in the world anyone whose last name is not named Allen or Gruden is defending Bruce Allen at this, or maybe even Daniel Snyder is defending Bruce Allen at this moment. But even Danny had to go through the tough decision of letting that dude go because they weren't doing well on the field, and they were facing investigation, which makes me believe that that was another casualty of said another casualty of the investigation that went on originally during the summer. So yeah, he wanted to go ahead and make sure that no one else that could potentially be involved that's not named him would be in the organization, like I said earlier. So yeah, I'm just going to wait and see how this all pans out, because I think I've already seen this movie before and how it ends.
Well, there's an article on the New York Times. They've been doing a great job of covering this. This one article called "What Gruden's Emails Tell Us About the NFL's Hypocrisy." Basically saying as the league's trying to send a signal about inclusion and diversity. Remember all those ads about NFLs for everyone, right?
Yes.
For blacks like Hispanics, Asians, LGBTQs, Native Americans, women, right?
Yeah.
But this hate-filled correspondence between football power brokers reveals entrenched values, or is this the real culture of the NFL is about to be exposed? Yeah. So, and also if you think about it, like the Morris Smith question, like, does this toxic culture have to do with the hiring decisions in the NFL as it pertains to front office types and head coach especially, right? Mm-hmm. And you can imagine if the NFLPA, I don't think it's going to happen, but if they manage to somehow get those remaining emails to be leaked to be, if they're not going to be leaked some more. About, can you imagine if you see all these people, these huge power brokers making all these racist and sexist remarks or co-signing to what Gruden was saying. And not only that, but even on the email chain, because if you're on the email chain, that means you must agree with this dude for him to feel comfortable with telling you all this stuff.
Yes.
So if you imagine if there's an owner or two out there or more, if there's some general managers out there involved in these hiring decisions.
Which is why, Scott, when people we're talking about Tom Brady, well, not even Tom Brady, with my main man Robert Kraft down there getting his field on down in Tampa.
Yeah.
With the massage party,
right? Yeah.
And people were talking about running an investigation. Owners don't want that.
Right.
No, because you don't want to find out what they're going through. We already seen photos of Jerry Jones with his porn star. Yo, you sure you want to run an investigation? The same thing with Tom Brady in the cell phone situation. They destroyed it. Yo, you don't know what was sent around to whom and how disparaging it could be. Which is why I'm like, you know what? I get why they did it. For the sake of the investigation, yeah, it's kind of grimy, but I get why they did it. Just like this.
Yeah.
Which is why they didn't go through the full investigation in the first place. Yo, I know other people were involved. I know other owners and GMs.
That's why it's the tip of the iceberg.
Were involved.
It's the tip of the iceberg. Jon Gruden is just a fall guy.
Yes.
There's many of this shit.
Yeah, he's a huge patsy in the situation, which is why I'm like, the league don't want this come out.
Yeah.
Unless they have to, which is why it was smart of these women to attempt to get the sponsors to commission these sponsors to lean on the league and get them to leak out these emails. But they know if they leak these emails, it's going to be damning.
It's a shit show.
A lot of people.
It's a shit show.
A show.
Yes, it will.
Yes. But the one thing is this, though. I truly believe that Jon Gruden got off easy by resigning.
Yeah. Because
of the simple fact that there should have been a conversation had between him and his players. Yes. The reason why I say that is because
that's why they call for him to be. That's why they call for him to be fired. Because I think the perfect punishment with the big lips remark would be to face his players every day.
Yes, right.
That would be the punishment for it.
You know, his racist comments, having to talk to his black players. His homophobic comments, having to deal with Carl Nassib.
Yes.
Talking about an organization. And I understand why he resigned, because the organization has been known for inclusion almost its entire existence.
Yeah. Al Davis and the son. Yeah.
With Al Davis, with Mark Davis, you know, the signing of a Mexican quarterback, the signing of the first black head coach in the league,
and the first Latino head coach too.
The first Latina head coach. You know, also the signing of a woman as an executive within an organization.
Amy Trask. Yep.
Yes. So there's so much inclusion that this organization has been spearheading.
Yeah.
To have someone in-house say things like that up until his hiring in 2018 is damning. So yes, I see why when it came up to 2018, and well, not even the time, the abundance of what was said.
Right.
It was like, yo, you gotta go.
You got to get.
We're gonna allow you to resign. We're not gonna fire you. We're gonna allow you to resign the situation because it's way too much for us to handle. We can't. We just can't.
And speaking of Carl Nassib, it's been noted that he's taking leave from the team.
Wow.
It's been said that he's taking leave right now, which is fucked up because I thought he showed a lot of courage and coming out, and not only that, he's performing on the field. He's having he's a damn good football player. People are missing that point. Yeah, and he's using that as his platform. To use his platform to talk about his sexuality, his coming out, and his wanting to support other gay athletes and LGBTQ causes. And
Yeah.
he's been doing a good job of balancing all that and using that and just still playing well. He didn't get as overwhelmed as Michael Sam did back in the day.
Yeah.
So this is perfect for Carl Nassib, but it's been noted. I got on my note alert to Bleacher Report, wherever he's taking time away from the team right now. So
Wow.
you know how pissed off he has to be. I can
Exactly,
imagine.
right?
So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just fucked up all the way around. And you can tell the Raiders didn't show up against the Chicago Bears at all Sunday. So they had to be thinking about what Gruden was saying too. So he had to go.
Yeah.
He had to go. Either way, he had to go. And to my white friends, well, not just white friends, but other people who complain of cancel culture. Again, we're not calling for cancel culture. Sometimes you catch your own ass.
Yeah.
So this will happen here. But this is how I like to bring this home. Say like if I, and a white friend, especially if he's Jewish. Like I have a neighborhood close friend who's Jewish.
Mhm.
Let me use him as an example. Suppose 8, 9, 10 years ago, I sent the email disparaging not only him, but people of the Jewish faith, of the Jewish ethnicity, calling them all sorts of names, playing all sorts of stereotypical bullshit, right? And just make other disparaging comments. Suppose that finds a lot of day. Suppose he were to find out and present this to me. And me trying to make the lame excuse I didn't mean to hurt anybody. Let's move forward. Don't you think that my neighbor is going to look at me in a very different light?
Yeah, most definitely.
Forward? That's why Gruden had to go. He couldn't do this and expect to lead a football team. He could. It'd be hard to get players to trust him. People don't understand that. So again, this is me using an example of me and my neighbor who's a good friend. Of him finding that out 8 years ago in the past.
Yeah.
And looking at me in a different light. Because that's going to happen. That will happen with anybody. So this is not canceling. This is when you cancel your own ass.
Yeah.
That's what Jon Gruden did.
Yeah.
So again, as we said earlier, his punishment was just a black comment. I know people would go, well, it took homosexual homophobic and sexist comment to get him out, now a black comment.
Yeah.
Again, you don't understand the nuance of this. The fact that he had to go and face his black superstar players was a huge punishment enough. And looking them in the eye, knowing that they do not trust him as far as they could throw him.
Yeah.
And you saw what happened against the Bears this past Sunday when they did not show up at all. If y'all don't think that's a punishment for that alone, he was going to, the season was going to be lost at that point. Let's just be real.
Oh, if he stayed, most definitely.
It was going to be, it's going to be a lost season. And then Mark Davis would have no choice but to just get rid of him anyway.
Yeah.
It was the beginning of the end at this point because of that. But when other things came on, other elements, other variables came in, and the volume of it and the amount of time that sped up that process of getting him out of there anyway. So either way, he's going to be gone. Yeah. Even if it was just a racist trip that he made, it would have been a matter of time before he would have been up on out of there. So anyway, so that's how I feel about that. I'm just interested to see what else goes on, because the NFL is going to safeguard those emails, but someone's going to leak something.
The same people who leak these emails are going to leak those. The thing
I'm sure they are.
Is how it's going to be handled.
Right. How's it going to be handled? And on that note, let's transition to college football when we talk about HBCU athletics. So there was a big game last week that we talked about last week. The Petty Bowl. Jackson State, Alabama A&M. Shit talk involved between both squads. There's no love lost between the squad and the coaches, players and coaches. But to see Jackson State beat them down the way they did, like a rented mule, curb stomped them like they owed them, as if someone owed them money. 61-15.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Deion's, what he had to say afterwards with letting the pink scooter was perfect. So perfect petty.
My God.
Perfect petty. But
Now,
but I want you to go into this because you're close to it. You watched it. You've probably written about it by now. So just give me your thoughts on this. And also, does this make Jackson State a legit power in the Eastern Division in the SWAC?
I'll answer the question about them being a legit power in the SWAC in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
But last week I did talk about all of the petty leading up to the game.
Yes, you did.
But Connell Manor added a little bit more petty spice to the game right at kickoff. Remember, I've talked about several times during the spring of Connell Manor and his affinity for one Nature Boy Ric Flair. Right. He actually did an impersonation of Ric Flair after winning this SWAC championship in the spring. Well, guess who was his special guest at Alabama A&M's homecoming on Saturday? The one and only Ric Flair showed up for the coin toss.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh my God, this petty train just keeps on going. But from the outset of that game, Jackson State's defense proved to be way too much for Alabama A&M's offense.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that a lot of people, well, there's some that knew, but it needed to play out, and it surely did on last Saturday. The problems that Alabama A&M has been having on the defensive side of the ball, and the fact that they give up a ton of points. The question was whether or not Jackson State's offense was going to click and score points. Oh, did they? And did they?
That didn't count the scoop and score from earlier. It didn't count that either.
Right. So it not even counting the scoop and score, right?
Mm-hmm.
They still scored on, what was it? Matter of fact, hey, look at God. I still have my notes here from Monday.
All right.
Look
at God.
They scored. They had 6 scoring drives by the offense of 50 or more yards. So that meant that the offense actually had to make some drives in order for them to get points on the board. Shador Sanders actually had 300 plus yards of total offense and 5 total touchdowns by his damn self. So that was the one thing that Coach Sanders has been harping on all season long, is that the defense is their defense. They need to get consistency from their offense.
Right.
If that becomes the situation, even though Shador actually said during the preseason that, we see the best talent in the SWAC in practice every day.
Yep.
And a lot of people laughed at him when he said that.
I remember that.
Now, yes, they have a top 10 in the nation defense, but this offense is starting to click. Again, if they can be consistent and they don't lose out, it's going to be tough to beat Jackson State in the SWAC. It really is. And I think they do have Southern later on. They have Alcorn as well. That's going to be a game to watch. But Penny Bowl 2, Electric Boogaloo, comes up this weekend when they face Alabama State in Jackson. And those that remember the spring where, Deion had some disparaging things to say about ASU and how they treated him and his players when he got there. And then, of course, the posting of the vintage photo of Prime with the jerry curl and the EK glasses placed on the scoreboard after the win. I know he hasn't forgotten about that. He hasn't talked much about it as much as he talked like he did with Alabama A&M because, of course, Coach Maynard has been very mouthy. But there's no love lost in that situation either. And don't be surprised if they try to put a message on Alabama State this weekend too, because of what happened during the spring. But the quote by Coach Sanders after the game, when he was asked about the score, was one, I wanted to make sure that all the lights on the scoreboard worked. And 2, we didn't score as many points as we should have, we left about 14, 21 points on the field offensively, and we allowed them to score a one touchdown more than what they should have. That game should have been a whole lot worse than what it was, end quote. So, yeah, it's, oh, my God. If this success carries over for the rest of the fall for Jackson State, and they're the Celebration Bowl representative, Atlanta is going to be on fire in December.
Oh, God. It'll be
State.
turned. It'll be turned. Atlanta's going to be turned.
I'll say this, right?
Is Native Son coming back home, too? Wow.
Yes. Now, when A&T would go to Atlanta, yes, I'm tooting our horn. When A&T would come to Atlanta for the Celebration Bowl, it really became A&T Atlanta, really.
Right.
But this is a whole different monster. You're talking about a Hall of Fame NFL player who is now the head coach of an HBCU that has turned around a program that is now garnering a lot of eyes because of how great they're playing, not just because of who their coach is. But they go to the Celebration Bowl in December. This is their SWAC championship to lose. And the only way that they lose it is if they get inconsistent play from the offense. They can't have it against Alcorn, and they sure as hell can't have it against Prairie View if that's who they end up facing in the SWAC championship, because those two offenses are very potent as well. And all it takes is to slip up on the defense once or twice and their offense not performing well for them to go ahead and end up losing the game. But as of right now, they're my favorites to win because they have all the intangibles to win one. It's whether or not they have the consistency to do so. But yes, this week's slate, the MEAC has half their teams on bye this week. Norfolk State has Virginia University of Lynchburg for their homecoming. That should be a beatdown. We also have Morgan State playing against South Carolina State, with Morgan State in their second MEAC conference game of the year, the first for South Carolina State. And then in the SWAC, my God, Prairie View A&M will be playing against Bethune-Cookman, who is still winless right now. Who would have ever expected that? But there was an interesting article by HBCU Game Day talking about the trials and tribulations of Bethune-Cookman. And I don't know if this, after reading that article, I don't know if necessarily the move to the SWAC was the best thing for them. So if you ever get a chance, go to HBCU Game Day, check out that article about how the moves off the field for Bethune-Cookman are affecting the moves on the field for the Wildcats. And it can spell trouble for that program as a whole. So I'm intrigued to see what happens. And my God, if what they're saying is true, Reggie Theus has a lot to clean up down there in Daytona. But moving on, Florida A&M will be playing against Alabama A&M, who is currently riding that 2-game losing streak. Like I said before, Jackson State, Alabama State.
ESPN Plus.
What's the ESPN Plus? Yes, sir.
You can watch it, yeah. Well,
oddly enough, all of these games that I'm saying so far, with the exception of Prairie View and Bethune-Cookman, will be on ESPN Plus. Southern and Arkansas, Pine Bluff. Texas Southern, who had a huge win last week, faces Grambling this week. Well, that game won't be on ESPN Plus, but it'll be on locally, I think, in Houston.
Yeah.
Alcorn, Mississippi Valley State also won't be on ESPN Plus. Sorry about that one, fellas. Texas Tech will be facing Tennessee State this Saturday. Hampton will be facing Charleston Southern. And then, of course, our North Carolina A&T Aggies, who are currently riding a 3-game win streak, will face their biggest test of the season this year, in my eyes, when they face off against top 15 ranked Kennesaw State in Kennesaw. So the Aggies are going to have to face that triple option going on down there. Yeah. My God, that's going to be interesting to see how they defend that triple option run game.
So that's going to be interesting there. So I'm just tripping off of Jackson State and Alabama.
As you should. My God, that thing was beyond
that was
entertaining.
Awesome.
I'm just mad that the game, I'm mad that it didn't live up to expectations,
Mhm.
but the hype around it and the blowout. Just speaking of, a murder happened in Alabama because of the game. Two men got into an argument over the game, which
Mhm.
led to one man shooting another and subsequently killing him
Wow.
because of it. Yeah,
It's
I'm
not
like,
that
this is
serious,
insane.
folks. Again,
It is
it's
not
not that
that
serious.
serious.
It's never that serious.
Never.
But
But
anyway,
yeah, man. Yeah. So that's what's going on with HBCU football. Basketball is right around the corner. Basketball season starts in a couple of weeks. So
Yes,
they're
sir.
getting ready for that. So,
Mhm.
once that starts, the CIAA, my God, oh man, Bowie State is out here doing Bowie State things.
Mhm.
A couple of weeks ago, Shawan beat down Winston-Salem State, putting up 70 on them.
Ooh.
Exactly right. But yeah, there's a great defensive battle between Shawan and Bowie, and it looks like Bowie's going to be the front runner in the CIAA right now. All they got to do is win out, and they have an opportunity to go ahead and three-peat as CIAA champions. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens for the rest of the season with them too.
Nice.
And then shout out to Bluefield State. They've had a wonderful season so far this year. Same thing with Langston. Those two Division II programs have been looking stellar this season so far. And Allen College out of South Carolina too has been looking good in the SEAC. So yeah, I'm intrigued by them. I got to go ahead and peek my head in a little bit more with what's going on in the SEAC. I really haven't been keeping up with them.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
I'm intrigued to see. Matter of fact, while I'm talking to them about them, let me see if I can put something about them real quick. Do you have any other questions while we're on HBCU athletics right now?
I was just curious about Tuskegee. I know a lot of Tuskegee alum. So you mentioned SEAC. I was wondering how Tuskegee is holding up right about now.
Well, they came out looking a little tough early on in the season because they had a real tough loss.
Mm-hmm.
They're currently 2-4. They're now 1-1 in the conference right now, which is interesting. But as of right now, if you're talking about division leaders, Savannah State, who I said everybody to watch out for. Savannah State is 3-0 in the East. They weren't allowed to compete within the conference play last year, in 2019, but they are now. They're 3-0. They're leading the East. And Kentucky State is currently leading the West right now. So it'll be interesting to see what Kentucky State and Miles do. Actually, in 2 weeks, when Miles travels to Kentucky State, that'll probably be for the West Division.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Okay, that's cool. All right. So on a more positive note, we'll close this podcast. We went from great with the NBA, talk about the NBA season. Great having Kevin McEwen and Jared Singleton on. Thank those two cats again. Yes. We went to the low with Jon Gruden's emails, the drama surrounding that and the credibility of NFL's culture.
Yes.
Elected of. And then on a high note with HBCU athletics, we talked about that beat down Jackson State, led by Coach Prime, put on Alabama A&M with the pettiness involved. And that you got to end the show with some positive pettiness. So we're going to bring it next week. Thank y'all for tuning in this week. Please continue to subscribe. Please like, share, comment. Hit the bell button beside the subscribe button so you can get notices of our podcast and future podcasts. Please check out the Yards HBCU Sports, reps of all things HBCU Sports, as well as Sleazy Radio every Tuesday now on Facebook Live. Herosports.com, reps for FCS as it pertains to HBCUs. I will have those links. I'm starting to have those links more in the description so y'all can check that out there. Check my man's great work out those few places as well. Get the merch, cafepress.com.
Merch.
Search for the Klown Time Sports. I have the link in the description as well. You find us there as well. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the slate of college football. Enjoy this NBA season.
Yes.
Opening weekend. Please enjoy that and be safe. Enjoy the great weather this weekend, depending on where you are. It's going to be 60s here in clear weather. So I'll be outside watching football. So I'm going to enjoy that as well. Until next time, take care. Peace out.